But from that pit, I realized that there's lessons to be learned. There's behaviors that I need to change. And maybe you took advantage too much of a good market. Maybe you thought things were always going to be that way, even though at the back of your mind you thought, well, things might change. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Araujo, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Go ahead and check on in. I see a lot of people on the call with me, and I do want to thank you. You do have a lot of choices as to what you're going to do in the morning, what you're going to do to get the ball rolling in the right direction, and being disciplined with certain things, certain behaviors, certain habits will ultimately get you everything that you want. And sometimes it doesn't move along as fast as we'd like, and we settle into these thoughts that I've tried everything, I've done everything, and yet still things are not moving along the way I wanted them to. And, that is a thought process that I think every individual, every business owner goes through, going into this game now 20 years, right? As a business owner, 18 years as a real estate agent, 11 years as a brokerage owner. It gets me thinking about the type of capacity I needed to build through all these years. And if you're a business owner, understand that this is not an easy task. You've been through some heavy stuff. You're going to go through some heavy stuff. It's a lot of responsibility. And anyone that's been in business for that long, learn to appreciate those individuals because they've been through some heavy, heavy stuff. And if you're just starting out in this game, understand that you're not free from experiencing those. You're going to go through the same heaviness in your life. You're going to go through the same type of reluctance, the same type of doubt and fears and frustration and jealousy. Jealousy is a big thing that I've experienced, right? Because you think in our minds, we think that we're doing everything. And then we see other individuals and you're like, how in the hell are they moving along? They must have a special gift. They must have a special talent. They have some type of advantage. And it really puts it down and it gets into our heads that we're just not good enough. And not until you actually start seeing the progression do you start realizing that it's all about time. It's all about doing the right things over time. This past weekend, I was invited to speak at a big conference, and it was about 200 people live and about another 1,000 people online. And I started really just sinking into the experience and realizing where I was at 2014 when I first went into and met my own coach and my own mentor. And I was emotionally charged, and that's the way I would explain it. I was emotionally charged, but it's not emotionally charged by appreciation. Rather, it was emotionally charged by just frustration with my own life, frustration of how bad things have gotten, frustration about my finances, my marriage, me as a man and as a leader. I was just frustrated in general, and I was just emotionally charged, and I carried a lot of shame and a lot of resentment, a lot of frustration and anger. I was just in a place where I didn't feel like things were progressing in any format that was worthwhile. And I think that's a powerful term there, worthwhile, right? Because if you don't feel you're worthwhile, then you feel worthless. And I think that was at that point, So I was emotionally charged with all these feelings, and didn't really appreciate the journey that got me to that, right? All the lessons that I learned throughout that time. I just felt like a failure. And one thing about you starting a business is that every frustration that you're feeling is going to make you feel like, is it worthwhile? Thus making you feel worthless down your journey. And understand that in order to see the contrast of that, you just got to keep going. And that's what was the point of my entire speech, was that I just focused on the tasks at hand, just the things that I had to accomplish for the day. And although it was frustrating, although I felt like I wasn't progressing, as I look back now, many years later, almost 8-9 years later, I can see it. But a lot of people are unwilling to take down that journey that it may take 5 years. It may take 7 years. It may take 9 years. And along that path, you're gonna face some hardships that knock you to the core, that knock you to the floor, that make you feel like the world is imploding on you. And some of you may be feeling that way right now. As the market has shifted, where it's 30 to 35% less demand, your production is 35 to 50% less. You may feel like the world is imploding upon you and that there's no way out. And I understand how that feels because I've been in that situation many times. As the money into the brokerage wasn't good enough to even pay the bills. As I had to sell my investment properties, which I was saving for my long-term future just to sustain myself. But from that pit, I realized that there's lessons to be learned. That there's behaviors that I need to change. And maybe you took advantage too much of a good market. Maybe you thought things were always going to be that way. Even though at the back of your mind, you thought, well, things might change. And they did. And they did. And now it's about appreciating the darkness, right? Appreciating the work that is going to require for you to dig yourself out. Because that's all that is right now. And with the demand going low and with the interest going high, it's a small wedge of qualified individuals that are actually going to move forward right now. But your job is to simply go out there and continue to fight for your business. This is about fighting for what you want. Understanding that maybe you didn't do all the right things during the time where it was high demand. Maybe you spent a little bit too much. Maybe you held back a little too much. But understand that this is just a moment in time in many, many years that are before you. If I would have been stuck of all my failures when I first began, I wouldn't be here today. And yes, I was emotionally charged this week because I see the growth. I see the people that are in my life. I see all the upside of the hard work. But we all have to experience these pains. And listen, if you're in a situation where it's just hard to get up, I get it. I understand you. If you have a constant thought that, is it ever going to work out? I get it. I understand you. If you're frustrated with yourself, if you're frustrated with your financial situation, I get it. I understand. But you have no other option but just to continue to move forward. As simple as that sounds, that is the only option you have. And right now, it's not about the easy transaction because it's not available. It's not about meeting one person that automatically wants to buy. There's going to be some hesitation on their end. So the 30-day turnaround period from getting one person from point A to point B is no longer there. It may take you 90 days. So you can't quit after 30. It's going to take you 90 days. So you can't doubt yourself on day 45. The times have changed. Things are different now. But if you hold back or you hold on to the fact that it shouldn't be this way, you're going to get stuck. And you're going to see many people just shoot right by you. This is a moment in time in a career that could expand. I'm going on 20 years, guys. 20 years. In the game of business, not just real estate, in business. So yes, I'm better prepared. And listen, I tried everything to pre-warn you. I tried everything to share my experiences. But sometimes you just have to experience it on your own. Sometimes you have to go through that pit. Sometimes you have to go through that darkness. And this is the moment. But it's not a moment for you to shut down right now. And listen, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm warning you right now. So don't get stuck that the transactions are not turning around as fast as they should, because that's been extended. Now you just have to trust the process. You have to trust that the work that's required from you is going to pan out. Everybody wants to work at the bottom end of that funnel, where you're squeezing out escrows, where you're squeezing out closings. But now it's a 90-day process, so guess what? Your job is to work on the top line of that funnel. Get as many people on top and get as many people communicating on the top end. But if you don't, even when things turn around, you're going to be behind. Even as the market improves, you're going to be behind. And you're going to have a whole new world of problems to deal with. Why is it that everybody else is selling and you're not? You see, the work begins now. The work doesn't stop. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about my journey. I just didn't quit. And I kept going at it. Financial devastation, I kept going at it. My business shrinking to a fourth of what it was, I kept going at it. I couldn't pay my mortgage, but at least I could pay my girls' tuition, school tuition. I kept going at it. This is where you just have to appreciate the journey. Appreciate the fact that you're still in the game. But if you're questioning that if you should even be here, you're on a losing track. You won't appreciate the growth. You won't appreciate what's coming your way. I was emotionally charged this week because I see the contrast. And you can't get that fire until you have a contrast. You're here, you're in the game. And it sucks and it's slower, yes. But what are you going to do about it? Only the strong will survive. The weak will be squeezed out. But what are you going to do about it? Which side are you going to decide to run on? 20 years in the business, 20 years in owning businesses. It didn't come easy. I'm not that story of, I tried it once. I'm that story of perseverance. And I'm imploring you to do the same. And some of you held back. I've seen it. You're non-existent right now. When right now is the most important time to exist. I saw you hold back. But just like I tried to forewarn you of what was happening, what was going to happen, I can't force you. That's a decision you have to make. And I can't force individuals to even join this mindset mastery. I can't force people to come into our meetings. I can't force people to see what's out there for you to improve yourself. It's a decision that comes from you, but just know that I'm here. Once you decide to go all in, you know where I'm at. We have had some trainings. We have Broker 411, little tidbits. And we're communicating more now than ever because it's important we do so. Whenever things slow down, that means we just have to double down. When things slow down, you double down. You don't hide. And we're in a very critical time in your business. And you have to understand that it's urgent. You can't hold back. You can't be lost in your thoughts. And listen, I understand. I've been there. And listen, I question myself to this day. So I understand. But there's no other alternative. What are you supposed to do? Hold back? Stay home? Stay weak in your thoughts? Or trust that something good will come from your actions? I was emotionally charged because I see the contrast. And I also have a lot of appreciation for being in a similar place that many of you are right now. But there is a way out. But you have to work for it. You have to walk towards that light that you're seeking. And don't worry if it's the right direction or not. You just have to do what's required today. Take those steps. And it's a simple process. We spelled it out for you. And that's just a foundation so it can put you in a position where you're seeing something greater for yourself. That's all I've ever done. I continue to study business. I continue to study marketing and sales and systems. I continue to study about my God. I continue to try to connect there. I continue to connect with my family, my wife and kids. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But that's a responsibility. I take care of my body. And some of you are walking away from all of that. And this period of this economic crisis that's coming our way, it's going to be a lot harder for you as you try to deal with your health issues and your family issues and your finances and your business. Why would you put yourself in that situation? Why don't you come in strong with your health? Why don't you come in strong with your relationship? The business is going to work out, but it's a big hole to dig yourself out of when nothing else is working. So this is where you have to completely start looking within. What is it that you truly want? And if you want it, understand that there's no other option but to get it. You have no other option. If that's what you want, you go out and get it. But I never said it was going to be easy. And you know this by now. And if you're emotionally charged because you're frustrated, if you're emotionally charged because you feel less than, maybe a little anxious, I get it. I understand. But just like you got yourself there, there's a way to feel powerful and certain and positive about your situation. But that's going to take some work as well. Because both sides require work. Both sides require an immense amount of thought and energy. So I want you to plug back in to what we have here. I want you to just do what's required from you. And understand that if something doesn't happen in 30 days doesn't mean that you're a failure. The time frame from getting one person from point A to point B is just changed. That's all it is. It doesn't mean you're inadequate. It doesn't mean it's not working. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean that your business is broken. Your job is just to continue to put people down that funnel. More on the top line. Follow up. Continue to be out there. Do what's required from you from your marketing. Do what's required from you for self-development so that you understand your behaviors. And then just trust the process. And listen, the next time this happens, which it will, there's going to be another upside. But this downside may last as long as the upside. And how long was the upside? A long time. But there's always going to be opportunity. You just have to choose on which side of the aisle you'll be on. Yeah, I'm emotionally charged because I have a lot of gratitude right now. So you change all those feelings, those negative feelings right now of the things that you don't have. And I want you to draw a line right next to what you don't have with all the things that you do have. You're still here. You're still in the game. You have your family. You have your health. You're here. You're alive. We're going to start there. And then we're going to work your ass off to get what you want. And it's not about beating up of what you should have done or what you could have done. It's too late for that. It doesn't matter how many warnings, right? It doesn't matter how much you saw this coming. It's too late for that. That conversation has ended. What about now? What are you going to do about that today? Just today. It's all we have. I know exactly what I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this call. I could dwell on shit from last week or last year or the things I should have done. Or I can just focus. I'm not going to be in the same position next year or in 6 months. It's all you have. So dive into those feelings. If you're emotionally charged, okay, where is it? Where's it coming from? Where's it stemming from? Let's do something about it. I'm guilty as charged with falling away, but I know that plugging back in is crucial. There's no shame in plugging back in. Everyone always welcomes me back. Absolutely. And there's always, there's the solutions to our problems are always right in front of us, right? The things that we may have disregarded or got comfortable with. And I understand it. And I've seen many agents make their way back to A's and Associates because it's just normal. The conversations we're having here is normal. You're thinking, well, everyone thinks at least. It's like, well, it's like this everywhere. Until we realize, well, no, maybe there's something special here. The people here, the conversations we have here, the realness, the rawness. I have nothing to hide. And there is no shame in plugging back in. There is no shame in being involved. There is no shame in being a student. We've had many classes over the last 3-4 weeks. And they may seem elementary until you start diving in, until you actually attend and realize, wow, this is much deeper than I anticipated. How does an open house get me emotionally charged? Well, you got to be there to experience it. A training on an open house. How does being on Mindset Mastery help me become a better business person? Well, we're peeling things away of what you may be really dealing with. And not the surface level stuff. Because if it was just the surface level stuff, you'd be doing those things. So we have to ask the question, what is it that's going on in your mind? What is it that's going on in your family? What is it that's going on with your health that's stopping you from doing the basics? But people don't want to have that conversation. We have them here. And Fred, I'm glad you plugged in. Adrian, I'm glad you're back. Schedule my open house for this week today. Let's go. Absolutely. The pain is temporary. It may last a minute, an hour, a day, or a year, but eventually that will subside and something else will take its place. If we quit, however, the pain will last forever. Can't tell you how many stories I've heard. Oh, I wish I would have stayed. Even with marriages. Oh, I wish I would have changed. And we have that opportunity to change. Just as many business owners that are in business right now, there's probably 2 times that or 3 times that are out, that are talking from the outside in. Well, I used to do that. I used to own my own business. You're still in the game. Congratulations. I'm guilty as charged with falling away, but I know that. Trusting Dana Conrad. Thank you for that. Michael, if you're going to walk on ice, you might as well dance. We're in the game. You got to be a player. Why not be an MVP? Good morning, Caroline. So go into the day emotionally charged and let that be your fuel today. Plug back in and just say, I'm just going to win today. Because that's all you have. You don't have somebody that's just going to land in your lap and cure all your problems. We're not in that place. So you recalibrate, you recommit. What are the things you're not doing? What are the things you need to be doing? And some of them are at home. Give your spouse a call. Show them that appreciation. Show them that love that they need. Call your kids. Text your kids. Tell them that you love them. Look yourself in the mirror and you say, hey, I'm proud of you. And get to work. That's all we got. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.